Hello everyone. Today at Foundry University, we're going to be covering the principles of pre-drying. So basically what this is it's designed to set you up for the entirety of your blow dry. So for whatever shape you're trying to create, this is where we want to set the stage for that. It's where we want to control growth patterns, where we want to create direction, where we want to create lift, smoothness, all the things that you want. You need to be really thoughtful in what you're doing in the pre-dry. So we're going to go ahead and break that down for you. So it's going to start with sectioning. So what I'm going to do, and you can section this with a comb, you can section it with your clips, you can do it however you want. So basically I'm going to be taking a parietal section. So basically from about the arch in the eyebrow all the way back, and then I'm going to be looping this back around, which you'll see in just a second. And it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but you want it pretty clean. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. I'm going to get this out of the way, and it looks a little something like that. Okay, so from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another section, a nape section, so going to just below the occipital ridge, and then I'm going to be taking these and clipping them up as well. Now, when you're parting, always remember to part to your finger because it's going to make the cleanest, quickest parting. And then all I have to do is get that section up in my hand, pony up, give it one tight turn, and then twist it up out of my way. So in essence, this is really what your sectioning should look like. Again, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but it should be somewhat clean. And then that'll really help you cruise through your blow dry. So the reason why we break this down into 3 sections, so we have our nape section, we have our central section, and then we have our top section. Generally, what's going to be happening, there's going to be something happening that's different in each one of these areas. This you might want to style a little bit more flat. You might want to start building a little bit more volume in through here. You might want to start building a lot of volume up and through the crown. But whatever you decide to do, generally, you're going to treat these 3 areas different. So that's why we like to stress, breaking them down. So that way visually you have kind of a roadmap to execute the rest of your blow dry. So how I'm going to start, so I'm going to pretend like I want this to be a little bit flatter, okay? But I still want some movement. So on long hair, I'm going to approach this by coming in and just working this side to side. You can also use a wrap dry method. And I'm going to work from side to side, just pushing the hair out of the way. Now I'm focusing my airflow right next to the scalp. Now I'm not like just holding it in one place. Notice how I'm kind of oscillating my airflow so that way I'm not burning my guest. But I really want that airflow all the way down to the scalp. The purpose of the pre-dry is to get the root dry and the root direction. And so you want to really get those roots completely dry. But you want to leave a little bit of moisture in through your ends. And if you need to, you can just go back, you can use your fingers, you can use the brush just to kind of dust off those ends a little bit. But make sure you don't over dry them. One of the reasons why we don't connect with our brush and follow through with our blow dryer is because the ends tend to be a little bit thinner and the scalp area tends to be a little bit thicker. And so if we blow dry the same amount throughout, I'm going to end up over drying this and under drying the roots. So that's why we don't move our airflow from the scalp area. For this blow dry, we're using a Denman vent brush just because it's easy to handle and it allows for great airflow. So then I'm going to drop my center section. In this center section, I'm going to be working for a little bit more volume. So I'm going to be creating some root lift and working away from the scalp. I'm also going to be working it equally from side to side so that way you get the same amount of movement and the same direction in both sides. Again, we're just keeping that airflow right down towards the scalp. Now I'm blowing slightly away from the root so that way I'm not burning my client. Okay, so it's really important that you just kind of skim the surface with the airflow and you're not directing it right on their scalp. So my brush hand moves slow throughout the hair all the way to the ends. So what I'm not doing is I'm not just doing this because then I'm just ratting up the hair and making a mess. And I'm going to work all the way through until I get to the front hairline. So then once I reach the front hairline, I'm going to be flipping and going back the opposite direction. So I'm going to finish with everything being styled away from her face. So when I go in with my brush, I'm just going in real clean, just flat, and then turning it like so. That way I'm just picking up a nice clean section. It stays nice and neat. And again, working it all the way until I get to the front hairline, and then I'll flip and come back the opposite direction. And I'm going to work it that way until I get all the way to my center back. So I can go back through and I can feel in here that these roots are actually completely dry. So I've got the lift and the bounce that I want to get. I've already created that, and then everything that I do with my finish brushes is just kind of like icing on the cake. Yeah, I just realized that our mannequin, our girl here, is a party girl, and she's got some tinsel weaved into her hair. So anyway, so it's a fun little element, but you can blow dry that too. Okay, so now I'm gonna take down my top section. So this section, you really wanna be mindful of what you do in this section. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of like change in root direction. So you wanna be mindful of where the hair's wanting to go and how you're gonna control that with what you're doing. Another thing that tends to happen is, the bang section. If we blow dry this last, sometimes we're gonna lose control. So many times you'll wanna go in, especially if you want something very specific to happen in that bang section, you'll wanna go in and do that first. But you don't have to. But just be very mindful of what you're trying to create as you go through it. So up and through here, I'm actually gonna start dragging this forward. Notice how slow my brush hand goes. So I'm dragging that forward so that way I can get the maximum amount of volume, and you can kind of see that taking shape. Notice also that my nozzle is flat against the head. So it's not in here at an angle, it's flat against the head. That way we get nice, even moisture removal. Now at this point, when I get to this bang section, I might want to, if she had a full bang or if she had a sweep, I would want to address that accordingly. But since she's got long hair and I want to keep that out of her face, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to work for volume anymore, but I want to work that flat back against her head, so that way everything will stay out of her face in the finish. Okay, then I'm going to flip back the other side and keep everything combed nice and clean to the side. And just continue working for volume and work until the roots are completely dry. Even though my airflow is directed close to the scalp, it's angled slightly downward towards the hair strands in the direction that the hair grows. So the hair on the ends is getting somewhat dry, but it's not getting overly dry. Okay, so once you've gotten the roots dry, then you want to analyze the amount of moisture that you have in your ends. So right in through here, if you can see that, there's still a little too much in there for me. I'm going to spend multiple brush passes trying to get that dry and expending a lot of effort that I don't need to spend. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna hit that lightly with my blow dryer so that way I can get it a little bit more dry. Okay, so at this point, we've gotten our pre-dry finished. Now I'm ready to go in with my finish brushes. So basically I can make 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 passes. If I need to make any more passes than that, it's because I haven't pre-dried enough. So you want to make sure that everything is Goldilocks, everything is just right, so that way you don't spend extra time or effort going through this. So I've gotten my roots dry, I've created this bounce, I've created this lift, I've gotten the direction that I want and the flow that I want. Now I'm ready to go in with my finish brushes. If you have any questions about pre-dry, leave a question in the comments and we will get back to you. Now watch the next video because we're gonna talk about how to pre-dry a bob. A bob, shorter hair, is very different in the way that you want to treat it than longer hair. So we're going to dive into that next. Remember to like and subscribe and stay tuned for more Foundry University.